Good morning, fellow members of the Survey Corps. I was going to do a completely different video today, but I decided to change my mind because I went to Tous les Jours and got some of these delicious sweet rice balls, which are for my vegan. Here was one of them. Here's the other one. Plus my coffee. So, going there inspired me to talk about your mental health when you're also a teacher over in Japan. Because believe me, even if you have lived outside your own country a number of times, whether it be study abroad, whether it be your parents were stationed overseas in the military, in the case of the United States, or they were working overseas and they brought you along, it's still going to be an adjustment to teaching and working full time in Japan. Depending where you are, say if you're placed out in the country, you're going to be limited in the number of expat friends that you're going to have. Now, yes, if you're a JET or a teacher in the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program that I've covered in other videos, yes, you are going to have a network, but you could still be far away from those other people and still meet up only maybe a couple times a year. Yes, FaceTime helps. Yes, we got Zoom and all that now, but still nothing beats being in person. So, how do you tackle those challenges when you're over there? Well, I will tell you that staying inside all the time and isolated and not dealing with anyone outside of your work time is going to be very detrimental to your mental health. It will lead to supreme loneliness, devastating depression, and other mental health issues as well. So you want to, if you're at your school, you want to find a few people that you do vibe with and you can get along with. And maybe you do want to reach out to them and see if they do want to get together from time to time. And likewise, don't turn down an opportunity to get out with them either. Even if you don't feel like it, but they're nice people, I would say go the extra mile at that time, because then you can reward yourself later and say, okay, I was good, so I'm going to binge on my favorite game, or I'm going to binge on my favorite Netflix series, or my favorite anime on Crunchyroll, or whatever have you. Then, yes, you can reward yourself because you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. So definitely, nothing beats human connection when you are teaching overseas, because you're going to be doing it on a daily basis, working at the office, working with the students. And so then in your downtime, you're going to need them too. Secondly, do look for a local hobby to get involved with. So if you're into sports or you're into physical activities, look at something like Aikido. You can take up martial arts. You can take up Japanese archery if you get the invitation, and there are people who are willing or looking for new members. Go into calligraphy if you're more on the cultural bent, or take up tea ceremony. I did both my first year. I did both calligraphy and tea ceremony. While I did not like the tea ceremony setup, it was good because I drank a lot of green tea, and especially as a young man, I really liked eating the sweet manju. For those of you who are not familiar with Japanese sweets, I'll take my glasses off. I'm not going to read anything today. It's a Japanese sweet, and you eat it when you're at a tea ceremony or something like that. Although I kind of felt jealous of the friend that I was with, because he had done the homestay with the tea ceremony teacher. Over 30 years later, I still remember putting that not tea bowl on the ground and having to look around and admire it because it's part of the tea ceremony. And so, yes, I still remember the taste. Some of it was kind of thin, some of it was thick, always bitter, but I enjoyed it. I think the thing that really sticks with me, though, is calligraphy, even though I was never good at it. And I think that's because I liked the person who had invited me to try calligraphy, and I enjoyed the calligraphy teacher who was a local woman in Osaka Prefecture. So I got to hear a lot of the Osaka dialect, Nanika Seihen instead of Nanika Shinai uh, in Japanese. So I got to hear a lot of that, and I was exposed to that. And so not only did I get the refined Japanese cultural aspect of it, I also got the more visceral, the more guttural, the real everyday Osaka lifestyle and speech and mannerisms and emotion, those things. And if I had stayed isolated, I would never have gotten that. Now, part of it is my personality. So, although I would not categorize myself as an extrovert, because if you look back at some of my earlier videos, those are hard. I'm not naturally, and this has not come natural to me. Uh, if you would have seen me teaching 30 years ago, it would have been far different from the way I do it now. But that's because I'm used to it. I know the rhythms. I've got the grooves in my brain that say, hey, this is how we're going to go, baby. And we are going to go, baby. And so that's how you get it now. But back in the day, I was raw. I still needed to be forged through steel and grit and iron and everything else that I might not be able to say on YouTube. So it doesn't. Don't be too hard on yourself if your first efforts don't bear fruit. It takes time. Just count the small wins as they come along. Reward yourself for the small wins. So if you want that canned coffee from the vending machine, when you're in Japan, go for it. If you want that yakisoba, go for it. You want to get that macaron, go for it. If you want that nikuman bun at 7-Eleven, go for it. Whatever you do, reward yourself on a daily basis for putting yourself out there, because what you're doing is still what a lot of people back in your own home country aren't doing. A lot of them will go to the anime conventions, and kudos to them. That was not something that was very common when I was growing up. So yes, at least they're experiencing the Japanese culture back in their home countries. But they're not actually moving to Japan, living over there on a daily basis, taking the train, having to deal with the weather elements over there, having to deal with cultural misunderstandings, not having to deal with maybe uh, conveying the wrong message to the person at the convenience store of what you want, or at the restaurant. You know, they're not dealing with those challenges on a daily basis. So if you're doing that, pat yourself on the back, because you deserve it. So find people of similar interest, Japanese and foreign, but especially Japanese if you are interested in making Japanese friends, and especially the Japanese language, because they are going to be beneficial. And even if you don't plan to be over there for a long time, do invest at least in survival Japanese. Um, if you can, find a free course for learning Japanese. That's what I did. I I first started with paying for a course, but then I realized I was kind of running into financial difficulties because I spent too much of my first check and just didn't realize how expensive living in Osaka Prefecture was. So I heard from a friend who I was working with. She said she was taking a free one at a local community center. And so that's what I did. And I'm glad I did that because I got pushed to take the JLPT eventually. And even though the first try for level 2, as it was called back in the day, now they call it N2. Yeah, I failed, but at least it got me in the mindset of aiming for something like that instead of just saying, this is good enough. Because I would not be able to read newspapers today. I would not be able to read work emails in Japanese today or convey my thoughts. If you see some of my earlier videos, which at this point don't have translations or subtitles. So I'll work on that in the future. Um, but if I'd not done that, then I would not be sitting here in front of you and giving you the advice that you need to not only survive in Japan as an English teacher, but thrive over there as well. Yes, I can vouch today, even a minimal amount of Japanese that you put out is still going to be very appreciated. It's still going to impress people. It's still going to bring smiles to their faces. You're still going to be seen as much more of an insider than if you rely on English all the time, because you're not going to be expected as a foreigner, especially as a foreign language teacher, to know Japanese perfectly. They know you weren't up in it. So just any bit of effort will help you and will go a long way. It's what it did for me. I've had a couple jobs and relationships because of my Japanese ability. I would not have gotten them otherwise if I had not put myself out there and found those people and put myself. And did it happen overnight? Oh, absolutely not. Certainly. Whew. Especially my first year in Japan, it was like, okay, all right, this person looks interesting. Her profile in the magazine looks interesting because there was no Tinder or Bumble back in the day. So we went with the personal ads. That's how I also met a lot of interesting people, a lot of mostly women, was through the personal ads. And while most of them didn't go anywhere, some of it was, you did get to use your Japanese. You were out and about exploring the city and all that. So for me, it was Osaka. Had I not had that desire to connect with people, I would not have seen a lot of Osaka or had so many good times there or developed the ability to speak Osaka Japanese. I think I would be doing a completely different video today and maybe talking about a completely different subject and perhaps not having the confidence that I have today. So, whatever you do on your journey to Japan to teach over there, remember to put yourself out there. Rest if you must, but don't quit. And with that, I'm going to get to my 2 very yummy and delicious rice balls and enjoy my coffee before I go off to a Portuguese meetup. Take care. Bye.